A quiet woman, Marina, married to a proud self-made businessman, Victor, finds herself humiliated at a charity gala for the elite. When the event's auction falters, she takes the stage and speaks simple truths that awaken compassion and action in a room full of pretension. Her act of quiet bravery not only redeems the night but transforms her marriage, her city, and her life. Yet, while her husband tries to follow her light, he cannot match her moral strength. Eventually, she leaves him, not in anger, but in peace, a story of growth, dignity, and inner liberation. The chandeliers looked like frozen rain, each crystal drop capturing light but offering none of its warmth. Marina adjusted her seat, the fabric of her navy dress whispering against the chair. Across the table, Victor smiled the way men smile when they've built something from dust and now dine among those who once ignored them. "Keep quiet and don't make a scene," he murmured through his teeth. His cufflinks caught the light, twin stars forged from ego. She nodded, though her pulse trembled. The laughter of strangers surrounded her, sharp, practiced, hollow. Waiters moved like choreography, silver trays reflecting chandeliers and champagne bubbles. The air itself felt curated. Marina's eyes wandered to the far corner, where a banner hung, Charity Gala for Children's Home No. 3. Her throat tightened. Once, she had held those children's hands, read to them from torn picture books. She could still recall the smell of chalk, of jam sandwiches, of small bodies that leaned close to listen. Victor leaned back, surveying the crowd with quiet hunger. To him, this was a battlefield of manners. He greeted each businessman with a handshake too firm, each wife with a smile too brief. "Connections," he whispered, "are investments." Marina wondered when people had become assets. The orchestra swelled, and applause rippled as the host welcomed the city's benefactors. Cameras flashed. Wine glasses clinked. Victor adjusted his tie with precision, but his hand trembled slightly. Beneath his confidence, there lived an old fear that he would never belong here, that his rough beginnings still clung to him like dust. When the auction began, paintings gleamed under spotlight, bold strokes, empty hearts. Marina's attention drifted to the projection screen showing the orphanage's cracked walls and rusted beds. Her chest ached. Victor's whisper returned. "Don't look too emotional. It makes you seem naive." Naive. The word folded inside her like paper. She turned to the screen again, to the chipped swing where a little girl once sat drawing oceans. Her name had been Liza. Marina remembered her laugh. It had sounded like courage. As the host's voice filled the hall with polite urgency, Marina's eyes darkened with quiet fire. She didn't yet know she was about to stand. Only that something long asleep inside her was beginning to breathe. Victor thrived on predictability. Each morning was measured, black coffee, polished shoes, ironed silence. He believed order protected him from chaos, the chaos of failure, emotion, or vulnerability. Marina had lived inside that order for years, like a flame trapped behind glass. She smiled in public, folded his napkins, matched his pace. But tonight, beneath chandeliers and applause, something felt wrong. The speeches blurred together, hollow words about generosity and progress. Men in tuxedos discussed art prices while servers refilled their glasses. Marina caught her reflection in a silver tray, small, still, invisible. Across the table, Victor whispered, "Smile. You're on camera." She obeyed. But inside, a thought stirred. When did kindness become performance? The host called for silence to introduce the next auction item, a wooden box filled with letters written by the children of the orphanage. The screen showed drawings, suns, stick figures, words spelled backward in hope. Laughter dimmed. For a heartbeat, the hall remembered its purpose. Marina's breath caught. She saw one letter she recognized, a scrawled name, Nina, surrounded by crooked hearts. That little girl had once clung to her leg, whispering, "You smell like my mother used to." Her throat tightened. Then the applause returned, polite but empty. Bids trickled in symbolic gestures for self-image. Victor clapped lazily, checked his phone, and murmured, "These events are just optics." That was the moment something broke, not loudly, but cleanly. She realized silence, the thing she'd worn like armor, had become her prison. When the host asked any further bids, the words seemed to hang in the air like a dare. Marina's chair scraped softly against the marble floor. Heads turned. Victor's fingers brushed her wrist. "Marina. Sit." But her body was already moving, propelled by something older than fear. She rose, straightened her dress, and began to walk toward the stage. The host froze mid-sentence as Marina approached. "I'd like to say a few words," she said softly. Her voice wasn't commanding, it was steady, unshakable. The microphone felt cold in her hands. "I'm not from your world," she began, "so I'll speak plainly." The crowd stilled. Even the chandeliers seemed to hold their breath. "I used to read to these children," she continued. "They don't need art on walls. They need walls that don't crumble. They don't need donations, they need care." Her words were not polished, but they carried weight. "You don't have to give a fortune," she said, "just something that lasts, a warm blanket, a working lamp, a mattress that doesn't sink." Her voice trembled, then steadied. "Give not for the photo, but for the peace of knowing you fixed something real." For a long, fragile second, no one moved. Then someone clapped. Then another. And the sound spread, hesitant at first, then rolling, alive. Victor's face flushed pale. His wife, the woman he'd told to stay quiet, stood above him, illuminated by truth. People began rising. The applause wasn't admiration, it was relief. The masks had cracked. Humanity was leaking through. The host swallowed hard and took the folder Marina offered, a handwritten list of needed items. The simplicity of it moved him more than any speech he'd heard. Marina stepped down, not triumphant, but calm. She returned to her seat, unaware that in those few minutes, she had undone years of artifice. The next morning, the world moved differently. Phone calls. Deliveries. Pledges. The orphanage director wept when the first trucks arrived. Victor watched from the balcony as Marina coordinated volunteers over the phone. He'd never seen her so alive, her hands moving with purpose, her voice full of quiet authority. Something hollowed in him. Shame, yes. But also awe. He joined her later that week, carrying boxes of light fixtures to the orphanage. The children cheered. He smiled awkwardly, unsure how to be useful. Marina only handed him a screwdriver and said, "Start there." For the first time in years, he worked without thinking of status. The sound of a working lamp switching on felt like redemption. But old habits die hard. The world that had once crowned him began calling again, meetings, dinners, applause. He slipped. A late-night event, a business dinner. He came home to cold tea and Marina's calm eyes. "We agreed," she said quietly. "I'm trying," he whispered. "I know," she replied. But trying isn't the same as changing. The day she left, there were no shouts, no slammed doors. Just truth. "I love you," she said, "but I can't live in a story that keeps repeating itself." Victor didn't argue. He simply sat, eyes unfocused, realizing that for all his success, he'd lost the only person who had ever spoken to him without calculation. Marina packed lightly, a coat, her notebooks, her mug. The city outside was quiet. She walked, her steps sure, her breath steady. She rented a small apartment near the charity office, a single window, a kettle, a white mug. It was enough. Each morning she brewed tea and began her lists, supplies, names, dates. Her life was modest, but every checkmark on those lists meant something real. Victor watched from afar. He sent donations anonymously, installed lights at the orphanage, visited in silence. Love didn't die. It simply changed shape, from possession to respect. Snow fell softly outside the orphanage. Inside, laughter spilled through bright hallways. Children rehearsed for a winter play on a stage built with donated wood. Marina adjusted curtains, smiling at their nervous joy. When the music began, she caught sight of Victor at the back, standing quietly, hands clasped. He didn't approach. He didn't need to. After the show, he left a box near the door, new shoes, labeled by size. Marina found them later and smiled faintly. No note. No signature. Just care. That night, she walked home through the snow, her steps light. The air smelled of pine and frost. She thought of the gala, the lights, the applause, and how none of it mattered now. What stayed was simpler, the warmth of small hands, the hum of working lamps, the peace that follows truth spoken aloud. She whispered to herself, some rooms need silence broken. Others, peace restored. And somewhere, far off in the city, Victor stood on his balcony, the night wind cold against his face, whispering the only words that mattered, thank you.